On his 5th birthday, a young boy collapses as a brutal vision takes hold. A blood-soaked man kneeling before an executioner's raised blade while a group of cold, uniformed women watch. The executioner's eyes are ice cold as the condemned man shudders in pure agony, his face a mangled mask of blood and tears. In one swift, violent stroke, the blade whistles through the air and severs the man's head while the crowd watches in haunting silence. The boy jolts awake in bed with a terrifying realization. This wasn't a dream, but the world of a game he knew by heart, and that executed villain was him! He bolts upright, desperately clutching his throat as the sheer horror of his doomed future crashes down on him. Every detail of the game floods back. A dark fantasy world of war and romance where the legendary Sword Emperor is currently just a student at the academy. The plot follows this hero as he masters his blade and finds love alongside a crew of powerful allies. Their mission is simple: crush a violent coup d'etat plotted by a corrupt duke and wipe his entire family off the map. Then the soul-crushing truth hits. He is Luke Hagato Disgustos, the 5-year-old son of that evil duke, cursed with a reputation that's absolutely revolting. Known as the Gross Fat Toad, he's destined to become a pathetic tyrant who torments the hero, and the memory of the game's brutal R-rated scenes makes him tremble with pure disgust. Ozzy's tragic life flashed before his eyes. A mother dead at birth, a family that treated him like trash, and a desperate, magicless spiral into villainy that ended with him being used and executed. In the grand scheme of things, he was a total nobody, a pathetic side character whose only purpose was to be slaughtered. Pure horror washed over him as he realized he only had 10 years before he transformed into that disgusting monster destined to be killed by the hero when they both turned 15. He gripped his pillow as a spark of defiance ignited. If he could just stay away from evil, he could rewrite his destiny and survive without the love of a family that never gave a damn. For a split second, he imagined a peaceful life of luxury as a noble, but that dream shattered the moment he spotted a massive flaw in his plan. A terrifying truth surfaced. His family was pure evil, and when the coming purge wiped them out, he'd be dragged down with them unless he gained the power to fight back. He stared down at his small, trembling hands, suddenly remembering a hidden secret. This character was actually supposed to be a magical prodigy. He closed his eyes and felt a surge of mystical energy coursing through his veins. But with no game menu to guide him, he had to figure out how to weaponize this mana on his own. He gambled on a simple chant, clutching his chest and whispering the word, "Heal." And suddenly, a brilliant, shimmering light exploded around him. As the glow faded, he looked around for a health bar to confirm the spell worked, and while he couldn't be sure, he definitely felt a little different. He pushed his limits all night long, chanting the spell over and over until his voice finally gave out and he collapsed into a deep silence. The next morning, his personal maid's soft voice cut through the air, gently pulling him back to consciousness to check on his health. He felt completely drained, but realized his usual sickness was gone. He'd actually passed out from mana exhaustion, proving he could only cast that spell 10 times before hitting 0. While his maid worried over his feverish forehead, he realized that winging it wouldn't cut it. If he wanted to master magic, he desperately needed a real teacher. Knowing his father would never hire a tutor, he turned to his loyal dog-beast maid, Syrup, and demanded she bring him a book on magic fundamentals to kickstart his training. He immediately switched tactics, hitting her with his most pathetic puppy dog eyes and a desperate "pretty please" that struck Syrup right in the heart. Seizing the moment, he flopped his head onto her lap and claimed she was his only hope, begging her to teach him reading and math while she blushed at how bold he was being. Her shock instantly transformed into pure fire as she hoisted the book high, promising with a massive grin that he could absolutely count on her. Now overflowing with dog-beast energy, she tried to drag him into intense physical training, but he just stayed glued to her lap and gave her a flat-out "no way." Even though he hated breaking a sweat, his education under Syrup officially kicked off as she locked in and dove straight into their very first lesson. She kicks off his training by reading Magic Fundamentals, while he rests his head on her lap. And while Luke is blown away by her reading skills, she completely chokes when trying to explain the difference between basic and elemental magic. Even with her fumbling, Luke gets it instantly, realizing that the invisible energy in the air is mana, a power fueled by raw talent that proves he's a natural-born mage. He thinks back to his first success, realizing he cast Heal just by picturing his mana mending his flesh, proving that magic is all about visualizing the result and pouring your energy into it. The book reveals the two paths: Basic magic is for everyone, but the devastating elemental magic is a rare gift reserved for the elite noble bloodlines. As he drifts off to sleep, he wonders if his own family's legendary reputation means he's destined to wield that high-tier elemental power. The intense study session finally knocks him out, so Syrup gently carries him to bed and tucks his magic book in right beside him. She flashes a soft smile and pulls the covers up, making sure he's as comfortable as possible. She lingers by his side for a moment, watching him sleep with a look that's a mix of deep affection and growing worry. Now looking much more mature, Luke reflects on the brutal grind where he'd constantly pass out from mana exhaustion. A grueling process that actually exploded his mana capacity and fueled his desperate self-taught mission to rewrite his grim future, even if his tiny staff of a butler and 3 maids can't teach him the advanced magic he craves. He remembers his original game avatar, a gross, obese disaster covered in acne and warts, and swears that his absolute first priority is a total body transformation. He starts with the basics. Hygiene. As he scrubs his face, the sight of soapy bubbles leaves him stunned, leading to a shocking discovery. Nobody in this world actually washes themselves. This strange ritual catches Syrup's eye, and she's baffled by the mountain of foam. Luke tells her his skin is incredibly sensitive and needs a gentle touch, leaving her absolutely speechless. She screams in disbelief, unable to fathom how a guy could have delicate skin. Luke knows she can't see the dark future he's trying to dodge, so he just brushes it off and tells her not to worry about it. From that moment, they kick off a hardcore skincare routine twice a day. Syrup insists that as his loyal maid, she's got to master his beauty secrets and join him every step of the way. This self-care obsession bleeds into his bath time and magic training alike. He fantasizes about being filthy rich, imagining a life where he can buy the finest soaps and lotions without ever checking the price tag. As he scrubs down, Syrup watches from the porch, beaming with pride that he's finally taking care of himself. She promises that in a year his skin will be flawless and he'll be a total heartbreaker. Though Luke is still struggling to get used to being this clean, her prediction hits the mark as his looks skyrocket, and while Syrup notices his glow, she can tell his mind is racing. He remembers the bold move of telling his father that he and Syrup are cooking their own meals now, sick of using healing magic just to survive the staff's terrible food. The payoff is instant as he digs into a feast he made with his own 2 hands. He finally realizes the local food was basically poison to his system, and his health surges the second he takes control of the kitchen. Syrup notices he's ditched the lazy mornings for a strict new grind. He's up with the sun, marching into the nearby forest to soak up those rays and kickstart his day. He's even started crushing light workouts and long walks, testing out his newfound agility. Syrup is absolutely ecstatic, cheering him on now that he's finally stepped out of the shadows. Later, while relaxing in the tub, Syrup brings up the idea of training, but he shuts her down instantly, declaring that he hates exercise with a burning passion. With a dead-serious look, she asks if he even wants a healthy, stress-free life, and he confirms that's exactly what he's aiming for. Syrup pushes back, warning him that just eating and sleeping will turn him into a total wreck, and he actually agrees that being a lazy slob would ruin his long-term plans. As she sinks into the water, she thinks about how adorable he is and wonders how he got so out of shape. Knowing he has the potential to be a total heartthrob, he keeps going, explaining that a truly easy life would actually leave him with way too much boring free time on his hands. Syrup reminds him that nobles are born for leisure, but he fires back that constant fun gets boring fast. Even casinos and theme parks lose their spark if you go every single day. His mood shifts as he faces the cold, hard truth. Despite his noble blood, he has no safety net, and he's certain his father will eventually throw him to the wolves. Haunted by memories of his past self, a man who wasted everything and died in ruin, he vows to use this second chance to prepare for the storm ahead. His master plan is to use his status to dodge every hardship possible, either by finding a wealthy wife to take care of him or securing a massive fortune to live in total comfort. He analyzes the 2 major paths of this world and realizes he can change his destiny by skipping the Royal Academy entirely, since that's where the main character, Luke, is supposed to show up. First up was the brutal war arc. A dark tale of chaos sparked by the villain, followed by the Academy arc, a bright story of love and training, and he knew mastering both was his only way to win the future. Cold sweat dripped down his face as he realized that while skipping the Academy meant staying alive, he had a reason to go that he just couldn't ignore. It was all for them, the heroes of this world. And as their faces flashed through his mind, A genuine smile broke across his face, because he truly loved them. Staring out at the massive city, his resolve turned to steel. He was going to live his best life as Luke and become the ultimate happy slacker. Syrup nailed his goal. He wanted a lazy, healthy life, but she insisted he pick up a sword, even though Luke preferred to stay glued to the couch while she obsessed over her own training. He coolly told her he didn't need training since she was his ultimate shield, leaving a shocked Syrup wondering how he even knew she was practicing her sword skills. Her face lit up with a massive grin as she vowed to handle all the dirty work, and with a quick, okay, they parted ways for the night. The next morning, he dodged every workout Syrup threw at him, but knowing he couldn't just rot away, he sprinted across the grounds to unleash a brand new spell he'd cooked up. He thrust his hands forward as raw mana swirled between his palms, shouting the command for his new creation to emerge. Valak! The spell surged to life, summoning a grinning, gooey creature named Val, a masterpiece born from his own unique, attributeless magic. He engineered this spell with one genius goal in mind. It stays active even while he's fast asleep. To understand how Val works, you've got to master the basics of attributeless magic, a raw power that transforms mana into 5 incredible categories. First is daily life magic for simple chores, followed by strength magic that trades your stamina for a massive physical power boost. The third path is enchantment magic, a specialized school for buffing weapons that even our hero admits he hasn't mastered yet. Then there's support magic fueled by pure imagination, and finally restoration, a field he dominates thanks to his medical expertise from his past life. Every school of magic relies on mana transformation, and that's the exact principle he used to birth his self-sufficient masterpiece, Val. It's time for a test drive, and it's effortless. He commands Val to fetch water, and the creature instantly glides over to grab it. After a quick thank you, the real trial begins as he drops his head onto the table and puts his absolute trust in his new creation. While he's out cold at his desk, Val's true purpose is revealed. The creature wraps around his body and follows his orders to the letter. He's finally cracked the code to the ultimate workout, watching with grim satisfaction as Val forces his unconscious limbs through a brutal training session. His plan was genius. If he could train while totally unconscious, life would be a total breeze. Standing next to the slime Val, he knew he'd finally found the ultimate shortcut. The fact that this creature could move on its own was a massive breakthrough. Now he could get stronger than ever while living his best, lazy life. Later, with his automated workout finally finished, he kicked back on the couch with a serious look on his face. Surrounded by mountains of books, he knew things were going great, but there was still a ton of work to do, and he just knew his muscles were going to be screaming tomorrow. Suddenly, a massive wave of hunger hit him. It was only the afternoon, but that workout had drained his tank, and a growing boy needs his fuel. Just then, Syrup arrived with a sweet treat, and Luke decided that being too strict was a waste of time. He was aiming for that lazy, villainous, noble lifestyle, so he enjoyed every single bite with a satisfied grin. 5 years flash by. Now, an 11-year-old Luke is deep into his studies in a massive library, while a 17-year-old Syrup stands guard nearby. She walks up with a sly smile and calls out his name, but he stays glued to his book, calmly asking what she wants. Suddenly, the massive chair he's sitting in lifts right off the ground and starts hovering. Syrup is completely floored, demanding to know how he's floating, but Luke just thinks explaining magic to her would be a total pain. He dodges the question entirely and asks if she wants to hop on. Her shock turns to pure curiosity as she timidly asks if she can, and he confirms that she absolutely can. She hesitantly creeps toward the levitating chair, but he calms her down, promising his mana will hold her steady. The instant she sits, her jaw drops in total shock at the mind-blowing, otherworldly comfort. She cries out that it's the most incredible thing she's ever felt, and after a moment, she raises her hand to fire off another question. He gives her the floor, and she demands to know how he's so ripped when all he ever does is nap, read, and take casual strolls. To explain, he stands tall and condenses his mana into a brilliant, solid orb, telling a wide-eyed Syrup to watch closely. A massive, explosive aura erupts from his frame, revealing that his power has evolved to a terrifying new level over the last 5 years. He takes her to the courtyard to showcase his lethal skills, unleashing a flurry of lightning-fast martial arts strikes. He becomes a total blur of motion, chaining high kicks and bone-shattering punches that leave Syrup absolutely speechless. She watches in pure disbelief, struggling to reconcile this warrior with the man who always claimed he hated breaking a sweat. Despite her shock, She can't look away as he finishes the routine with a devastating, soul-piercing focus punch. He exhales a soft breath, his face flushing red from the sheer intensity of his training. She immediately showers him with praise, calling his skills incredible, but he just turns and asks for her brutal honesty. Syrup is blown away by his dedication, claiming his movements are so flawless they put even the world's greatest martial arts masters to shame. That's when he drops a bombshell. He's invented a brand new spell called Trace that absorbs VL and pumps its memories directly into his brain. This insane power lets him mimic legendary fighters perfectly, even pulling moves straight out of his favorite fighting games and manga. He's fused every style and history he's ever learned into one ultimate, unstoppable martial art of his own creation. He tells Syrup that his flight spell was just the beginning, as he's been pushing his body to move with a lethal instinct he isn't even fully conscious of. Syrup stands there frozen in shock, calling him a total genius, but he just humbly brushes it off. She's stunned that her 11-year-old master has already touched the deep abyss of magic, and when he doesn't get it, she just smiles and tells him he simply had a hard time grasping it. While cooling off on the balcony, Luke asks if she needs a change of clothes while secretly reflecting on the past life memories that grant him this insane power. Exhausted from his journey, Luke finds a hidden forest spring and decides to wash off the grime, with Syrup happily tagging along. As the refreshing water hits his skin, Luke realizes this is their secret spot, and he can't help but remember the rumors about Syrup's stunning transformation. He spent 5 years molding her into a deadly warrior with unmatched grace, and seeing her fierce beauty combined with such pure loyalty feels like a reward only he gets to enjoy. Back inside and wrapped in a robe, Luke commands Syrup to tell his father it's finally time to reveal his magic attribute, and she obeys instantly. He sinks into a comfy chair with a smirk, watching Syrup bow and head out to deliver the message that will change his life. With her gone, he ponders the absolute laws of this world, where your attribute magic is a divine gift etched into your very soul. Discovering your power is simple enough, but Luke wonders which legendary figure will be the one to unveil his destiny. That heavy duty belongs to the Ministry of Magic of Elecidus, an elite circle of the most powerful sorcerers to ever walk the earth. He kicks back with total confidence, knowing an elite master is coming just for him. Because for a noble like Luke, being born powerless is simply impossible. His bloodline is packed with incredible talent, from his father's sand and brother's iron to his sister's seduction and even his stepmother's crushing rock magic. Coming from such a legendary bloodline, he was dying to know what insane power he'd awaken. The hype was real, and he was ready to explode. The very next morning, he comes flying out of his room on a floating cushion, only to slam right into a mysterious stranger waiting in the hallway. This sharp-dressed official in a dark coat takes one look at him and calls him a beautiful girl, leaving Luke absolutely floored that his new look was that convincing. While Luke is still reeling, Syrup steps up to introduce the man as Glico, the high-ranking chief of the Ministry of Magic's Attribute Bureau. The chief's eyes dart from Syrup to the kid on the cushion, and he adjusts his glasses as if he's finally putting the pieces of the puzzle together. With Syrup standing guard, the official looks Luke dead in the eye and makes a massive blunder, calling him young lady yet again. He praises the maid for her incredible memory, noting that such perfection is exactly what you'd expect from a servant of the prestigious Disgustos household. He scans the room, asking where the young master is hiding, but Syrup just points right at the small boy sitting regally in the massive armchair. Luke watches the awkward exchange in total confusion until Syrup finally sets the record straight, officially introducing him as Lord Luke Hugelo Disgusto. Glico is stunned because he expected the beastman Syrup to be treated like trash, thanks to the kingdom's twisted doctrine that demands all non-humans be hated and scorned. Luke realizes this guy isn't a villain and casually calls him Malsan, but the official quickly corrects him. It's Glico! Luke reaches out for a handshake, asking to just be called Luke, and Malsa's cold face finally starts to melt. The official grips the boy's hand, returning the gesture with a newfound respect. Now for the big moment. Malsa tells Luke to close his eyes for the magic test, his own breath shaking with anticipation. He pulls out a glowing pointed tool and readies himself to reveal Luke's hidden potential. The truth hits like a lightning bolt. Luke's attributes are revealed to be sleep and sloth. Luke can still hear Glico's voice echoing those strange, powerful names in his mind. Power surges through his veins, feeling more like a long-lost memory than a new gift, leaving him breathless as he whispers, "Amazing." Glico tries to explain, but Luke cuts him off. He already feels the magic flowing and knows exactly what he's capable of. The official drops a bombshell. Sleep and sloth aren't just normal powers. They're incredibly rare magic types. He explains that while basic powers are public knowledge, rare magic is a secret you take to the grave. He suggests hiding Luke's true power under a vague label, and Luke nods in agreement. Luke confesses he's only scratched the surface of his power and begs for more advanced techniques. Maul reveals that true mastery only comes when you stop copying others and start researching your own unique soul. He holds up a finger, declaring that finding your own path is the only way to become a true master. Luke stays silent, letting those heavy words sink deep into his mind. The boy vows to remember that wisdom as he kicks off his training, but Malsa looks absolutely stunned by his reaction.
Surprise turns into pure shock as the official demands to know how Luke knows about appraisal magic, a secret he was supposed to be clueless about.
Luke coolly fires back, asking if Malsa hadn't just used that exact magic on him. He drops the bombshell that as a reincarnator, he just assumed it existed, having no clue it was a forbidden secret. He casually tells Syrup to serve some tea, completely ignoring Malsa, who's currently having a total meltdown over these insane revelations. As Syrup pours the drinks, Malsa takes a long sip, finally regaining his cool as he admits the tea is absolutely divine. He asks for the name of the brew, and Luke explains it's a special health-boosting blend that Syrup grew herself, meaning you can't buy this anywhere. Malsa realizes the drink is actually clearing his foggy mind. With a grin, he thanks Luke and offers him some of the rare leaves, before double-checking that they're keeping this appraisal magic business a total secret. Malsa mentions his daughter, a girl Luke's age who's obsessed with magic, would absolutely love this tea, catching Luke completely off guard. But the moment magic is mentioned, Malsa leans in with intense focus, demanding to know the secret behind that flying cushion. Luke just flashes a mysterious smile and brushes it off, forcing a flustered Malsa to quickly apologize for his sudden outburst. Gesturing toward a small, gooey creature, Luke invites Malsa to stay a while longer so they can finally have a real heart-to-heart. The sun dips below the jagged mountain peaks as their marathon conversation finally comes to a close. Just as Malsa gets ready to head out, Luke drops a total bombshell by asking the man to become his personal magic tutor. Malsa is absolutely stunned, questioning why a kid as talented as Luke would ever need a teacher or what he could possibly hope to learn. Luke clarifies his plan. He just wants Malsa to answer his letters whenever he hits a wall with his research. Basically, he wants a magical pen pal. A warm smile spreads across the man's face as he realizes just how intriguing this little arrangement could be. Luke eagerly asks if it's a deal, and Malsa agrees, but only if Luke promises to answer his questions in return. He accepts on the spot, modestly doubting his own wisdom, but Malsa flashes a grin and declares the deal is done. With the contract set, they trade massive smiles as Luke pours out his gratitude and Malsa prepares to pick up the pen. Their secret letters begin, and before long, Luke is lounging with a scroll, marveling at how much he's mastered under Malsa's expert guidance. His studies reveal a shocking truth. While raw mana is a blank canvas, elemental magic has strict laws, and his appraisal skill finally unlocks the secrets of his own soul. He discovers that every element has inherent magic basics, like a fireball or a fire arrow. But anything beyond that is limited only by his own imagination and grit. He turns his gaze to his own sleep attribute and its 3 core spells, starting with sleep, a power he can fine-tune to knock out even the toughest targets. He cracks the code on the rest. Sleep Timer locks a target into a coma-like slumber with a single touch, while Sleep Delete can instantly shatter any sleep spell. He realizes he can drop enemies before they even blink, especially when paired with his Sloth attribute, but he knows he still has to bypass their magical defenses. A genius idea strikes. If fire users have arrows, why can't he snipe enemies with sleep arrows from afar? He grins, knowing his powers are basically a total cheat code. Staring at his tutor's letter, his mind explodes with possibilities, like knocking out teachers to skip class, and he realizes a single lifetime isn't enough to master it all. Luke Disgustos has a bizarre new routine. Every single morning, he hands the keys to his body over to Val. This mental reset is the only way he can sharpen his mind for his intense magical research. Suddenly, Syrup approaches him with a simple question. Is he ready to eat? Luke doesn't hesitate for a second, eagerly taking her up on the offer. Their deal is unique. Even though Syrup is a perfect maid, Luke still craves the flavors of his past life. To satisfy his hunger, they've agreed to swap shifts in the kitchen. The reason is simple. While her food is fine, it's totally missing that soul and attention to detail he craves. Now 11 years old, Luke heads off to wash away the grime of training while she handles the stove. Even though his anxieties are mounting as he grows older, he forces those dark thoughts into the back of his mind. He makes his way to a hidden natural spring for a quick soak, but just as he steps into the water, a strange sound echoes through the trees. It's the heart-wrenching sob of a young girl crying out that she's going to die all by herself. Luke is stunned. Hardly anyone ever stumbles upon this secret location. He scans the dense woods until he finally spots her, wondering if she's just a lost kid since there aren't many threats nearby. "Who are you?" he shouts, breaking the silence. His sudden shout makes her jump, and she lets out a sharp gasp of terror. But as he moves in closer, he realizes with a shock that she isn't by herself. A bizarre, rhythmic noise suddenly fills the air. The girl stares at the half-naked Luke with a bright red face and her hands over her mouth, while he just stands there looking completely unimpressed. It finally clicks. This girl is just a guest for his sister's tea party that he completely blanked on. Meanwhile, she's a total nervous wreck, her eyes spinning in circles as she stammers in pure shock. She's drowning in panic, but Luke flashes a charming smile and introduces himself as Luke Huggalo. She lets out a tiny shriek before her face lights up with realization, asking if he's the younger brother of the legendary Iris. She tries her best to be formal, clumsily introducing herself as Karen C. Caribbean, the 12-year-old daughter of a count. Luke can't help but grin at her adorable earnestness, casually calling her Karen as he speaks. Suddenly, her politeness vanishes, replaced by a look of intense curiosity. She drops to her knees and begs to know if he can use attribute magic, her entire face glowing with absolute awe. He confirms it with a nod, admitting he's a huge fan of magic as he takes her hand to help her up. Then he flips the script, asking if she'll show him what her own attribute magic can do. She's ready to go instantly, shouting, "Yes, right away, sir!" with insane zeal. She's so professional about it that Luke actually wonders if she works at a shop or something. With a quick, "Pardon me," a fancy pouch appears in a blinding flash of light. She starts pulling out a mountain of cooking gear, explaining that her magic is just the pouch itself. The tools are just normal items. Luke is fascinated by this bottomless magic bag, but he's still dying to see her actual attribute magic. He gently suggests that before she shows him anything else, she might want to actually put some clothes on. She ignores the comment and dives straight into her work, filling the clearing with the delicious sound of sizzling oil. She handles the pans like a master chef, revealing that her true attribute magic is the art of cooking. Moments later, she presents him with a steaming bowl of spiced moonrabbit soup. She modestly claims it's just a quick dish made from random ingredients and warmly invites him to dig in. He couldn't wrap his head around how tribute magic changed the food, but the second that spoon reached his lips, a heavenly scent hit him like a truck. The second that soup hit his tongue, his taste buds exploded. This was a flavor bomb more intense than anything from his past life, and the shock nearly blasted him right out of his seat. A massive surge of power erupted inside him as a legendary stat buff kicked in. He looked down to find the bowl already empty, realizing this girl's cooking was the ultimate secret weapon. He locked eyes with Karen, his mind made up. She was the absolute key to the lazy life he craved. There was no way he was letting her escape, so he called out her name with total conviction. Leaning in with a dead serious expression, he dropped the big question. Would she cook this soup for him every single day once they grew up? Karen could only stare back, her jaw hitting the floor. With zero hesitation, he slammed his hand over his heart and declared his intentions. He popped the proposal right then and there, ready to abandon his own name just to marry into her family. Karen turned beet red, her brain totally short-circuiting from the shock. But Luke's logic was simple. Her cooking was everything, and he knew she'd keep him fed even if his own trashy family went up in flames. She could barely stutter out a response, trying to process that he actually just proposed. To Luke, this wasn't just a meal. It was a miracle encounter that changed his entire destiny. That one meeting set a massive chain reaction in motion, with Luke demanding his father make the engagement official immediately. The Duke didn't give a damn and told him to do whatever he wanted, leading to a high-stakes meeting at Count Caribbean's restaurant. Once inside, the Count offered him a seat while Luke apologized for his father being a total no-show. The Count played it cool, but deep down, he was absolutely stunned that a high-ranking Duke would blow off his own son's marriage meeting. Luke didn't care one bit that his father skipped out, But Karen was secretly relieved she didn't have to face that terrifying man. Without wasting a second, Luke looks the Count dead in the eye and drops a bombshell. He wants to marry into the Caribbean family. The Count's face lights up with pure joy as he shouts his approval, welcoming Luke into the family with open arms. Karen is stunned by the sudden news. But before she can even ask Luke why he'd want her, her dad blabs that she's already head over heels for him. Luke knew she liked him, but he had a bigger problem on his mind. The nasty rumors about girls bullying Karen for how she looks. He realizes the culprit is none other than Iris, a cruel 12-year-old brat who just happens to be his own sister. Luke finds Karen's round face totally cute, but while the Count thinks he loves her soul, Luke is secretly eyeing her status and her cooking. The Count explains their history as masters of the sea, but he's worried that Luke's pale skin won't survive a single day under the scorching sun. Karen reveals she's the sole heir to the family fortune, but she'd give it all up in a heartbeat just to open her own restaurant. Luke just laughs it off, promising he's tougher than he looks and revealing his ultimate secret weapon against the heat, sunscreen! Luke realized that with his summon Val, he could skip the seasickness and let the beast carry his gear while he napped. Before he could say a word, Count Caribbean stepped in, entrusting his daughter to Luke and telling them to enjoy their new life together. The Count let out a massive belly laugh at the formal title, waving them off and joking about how fast the young man was moving. The second her father left, Karen turned to Luke with burning intensity, declaring she wanted to become beautiful enough to stand by his side. He remembered her lifelong insecurities and told her she was already cute, but she immediately snapped that cute wasn't what she meant. She was determined to become a stunning beauty to stop Iris from looking down on her, and despite Luke's warning of a brutal training regime, she didn't hesitate to agree. Her confidence wavered as she asked if someone like her could truly change. But Luke just gave her a cocky grin and promised there was a dead simple way. He briefly considered using his sleep abilities to force a diet on her, but he quickly realized that just getting thin wasn't her real goal. Realizing they needed privacy, he suggested they move elsewhere, and Karen happily agreed, asking if they could finally call each other by their first names. He immediately summoned Syrup to make sure no one was spying on them, before telling Karen they would finish this conversation in his room. He drops a bombshell on a stunned Karen. His secret weight loss trick is pure magic. He confesses he might be paranoid, but after eavesdropping on her sister, he's cutting straight to the chase. The plan is simple. She's going to work out while she's fast asleep. Karen's brain is spinning, but when he reveals his rare sleep and sloth attributes, she's absolutely floored by his plan to use them for her training. It's a genius combo of raw magic and his trusty summon, Val the Slime. He'll knock her out with sleep magic, then Val will slip inside her body to puppet her through a grueling workout while she dreams. Though Karen just thinks the little slime is cute. She realizes Val is a living, breathing spell, and he proves it by letting the slime wrap around his own arm for a live demonstration. He orders Val to start a quick training session and sets a magical sleep timer for exactly 60 seconds. He snaps awake a minute later, leaving Karen completely speechless. She gasps in disbelief, shouting that his movements were as sharp and deadly as a master martial artist. He wipes away the sweat, buzzing from the insane feeling of a full workout with zero memory of the pain. He promises Karen it's easy if she just lets Val in, and she looks up, wondering if she can really pull off the same miracle. When he asks about her fitness, Karen admits she's a total klutz, but after a quick outfit change with Syrup's help, she's fired up and ready to dive in. Geared up and ready, she agrees to a light warm-up, flexing her arm and bragging about her hidden strength, even if Luke thinks she's totally delusional. The workout hits her like a freight train, leaving Karen collapsed and gasping for air on the lounge chair. As she wheezes, wondering how that was light, Luke just stands over her and asks how she's feeling, but she's too drained to even speak. She let out a pained groan, her body so wrecked and stiff that she couldn't even move. Luke stepped in to steady her, explaining they'd start with simple drills to boost her endurance, though even his healing magic couldn't wipe away all the soreness. Even through the agony, her eyes blazed with fire as she vowed to give it her all. Luke flashed a proud smile, cheering her on to push past her limits. Next up was the ultimate beauty routine, where he taught her how to whip up a thick, rich lather. He explained that the foam does all the heavy lifting, pulling out dirt so she never has to scrub her delicate skin raw. She carefully applied the soft foam just like he said, before moving on to the rinse phase. He warned her to be incredibly gentle, making sure she didn't even graze her skin as she washed the soap away. Now that her face was glowing, it was time for the makeup magic. Karen's eyes went wide as she stared at the mountain of bottles, and Luke was blown away by how fast his star pupil was learning. The final piece of the puzzle was pure nutrition. Luke preached that a stunning body is built in the kitchen, and a fully dressed Karen was hooked, praising his skills and knowing he could turn any healthy ingredient into a masterpiece. Totally inspired, she started whipping up soybean treats and fresh chicken salads. Before long, Karen was obsessed, spending every waking moment inventing the ultimate healthy meals. She took every single one of his tips and leveled them up, creating a massive spread of mind-blowing original dishes in record time. The table was literally groaning under the weight of all that food. Luke joked that she'd gone overboard, but deep down, he was hyped to finally eat Japanese classics like natto burgers and miso soup in this fantasy world. Karen looked down, torn between her hard work and her diet. She knew she couldn't eat it all, but she refused to let her masterpieces go to waste. So Luke stepped in with a genius plan. Donate the feast to a local orphanage. Her eyes light up with a brilliant idea, realizing she can master her cooking skills and donate every extra scrap to the local orphanage. She dives headfirst into the plan, whipping up massive feasts and delivering them to a new orphanage every single day while Luke watches, knowing this is the ultimate win-win. While bumping along in a carriage, Luke asks if she's heading out again, and she admits that even though it was his idea, she'd much rather be rotting on her couch at home. But there's a darker reason for her hesitation. The orphanages are absolutely revolting, and she recoils in horror as a rat scurries past children huddled near grime-covered cages. A crowd of messy kids swarms her, shouting her name, but she realizes with a sinking heart that even her strongest cleaning magic couldn't fix this dump, especially since these poor orphans can't use magic to clean themselves. She explains to Luke that the greedy church only cares about coin, making her hesitant to use her healing powers, until a terrified girl sprints up, screaming for help because her little brother won't wake up. She's paralyzed by her hatred for the church, but Luke gently cups her face, telling her not to worry because he's going to step in and handle this himself. He finds the boy gasping for air in a broken-down room, and one look tells Luke it's pneumonia. A death sentence in a filthy place like this. Luke leans over the child, focuses every ounce of his will, and commands a single word: heal. A warm glow erupts from his palm, and the boy's ragged breathing instantly turns calm and steady. The sister fearfully asks for the price, but Luke tells her it's free. As the boy sits up completely cured, she breaks down in tears of joy while Luke walks away with a cold, unreadable expression. With total composure, he explains he was just testing his spells, and as a duke's son, he's got more gold than he could ever spend. Karen is completely flustered, blushing as she tells him his noble status was a secret he didn't have to share. But she's overjoyed now that she finally knows how to cure that deadly disease. While she showers him with thanks, Luke calls out to Syrup, thinking to himself that Karen is brilliant and deserves a much better life than this. Reading her master's mind, Syrup steps up to the director with a smirk, suggesting that since the Duke is drowning in riches, it's only right to put that wealth to good use. The director freezes, but Luke shuts down any debate, slamming a heavy bag of 50 gold pieces onto the desk and demanding they use it to clean up this place and start teaching the kids. He realizes these orphanages are the perfect lab for his magic, giving him a chance to cure everything from lethal poisons to horrific monster wounds, and what started as a whim has turned into a fascinating new hobby. Fast forward 3 years. Luke is now 14 and living the dream. With Syrup handling the chores, Karen cooking every meal, and his slime Val keeping him in peak condition as his lazy lifestyle reaches perfection. He knows Karen has opened his eyes to a whole new world, but a dark cloud hangs over him. These peaceful days are about to vanish forever. The clock is ticking because Karen is heading off to the academy this spring to live in the dorms, so he's determined to soak up every single second they have left. With his mind made up, he realizes Karen is late for their meetup, but he has a gut feeling where she's hiding and sets off to find her. While walking through the main house, Luke is stunned to run into his 19-year-old brother Testa, who treats him like a total ghost. Even though Luke is now the taller one, Testa walks right past him without a single word. Luke brushes off the cold shoulder, wiping his brother from his mind to focus entirely on finding Karen. He's got a gut feeling he knows exactly where she's hiding. His search leads him straight to the garden, where he finds her sitting like royalty among a sea of vibrant, blooming flowers. He watches from a distance, amazed by her transformation. She's become a breathtaking beauty that everyone is absolutely obsessed with. His trance is shattered when a sharp, familiar voice calls his name, and he spins around to find his older sister Iris, lounging at a nearby table. Iris smirks and asks if he's here to crash their tea party and steal Karen away. Luke is floored. He had no idea Karen was actually there to visit Iris. He stands tall and boldly declares he's here to rescue his kidnapped fiancée. Iris's face twists into a nasty glare, clearly enraged by the interruption. Iris wields a terrifying, subtle power. One look into her eyes and any man becomes her mindless, obedient puppet. But this time, her magic fails. Karen realizes Luke is completely immune to the spell, leaving Iris fuming in silent frustration. He tells Karen she has nothing to apologize for, then stares down his sister and demands to know if her pathetic little game is finally over. He doubles down, arguing that Iris is totally hogging Karen's time. Since he's stuck waiting another year for the academy, he demands every moment he can get. But Iris cold-heartedly shuts him down, claiming they'll have all the time in the world once they're students. Caught in the crossfire, Karen's heart races as she secretly loves having two gorgeous people fighting over her. Meanwhile, Iris is absolutely fuming, realizing her master plan is falling apart right before her eyes. Realizing he's hit a wall, Luke drops into a deep, dramatic bow to apologize. He playfully warns his sister that such a terrifying scowl is totally ruining her stunning looks. He looks up with a warm, melting smile, reminding her that her academy days are just around the corner and cheering her on to give it her all. His charm works like a charm! Karen immediately ditches Iris, and Luke grabs her hand to make a quick escape, knowing he needs to stay on his sister's good side while he still can. As they walk away, Iris is left gasping for air with a bright red face as a shocking truth hits her. Luke is the only man alive who can match her beauty, and a dark, possessive hunger takes hold as she whispers his name. She has to have him. Months fly by, and with Karen gone to the academy, Luke has become a total shut-in, rotting away in bed. He just stares at the ceiling, lazily wondering which book he should have someone bring him today. Suddenly, he shocks Syrup by announcing they're actually going outside. She's stunned by this rare move, praying the rain stays away. While Malsa Glico realizes that since Luke never leaves and has everything delivered, he literally has zero friends to visit besides him. She can't stop buzzing about how weird this is, but Luke sits up and insists she come along, rain or shine. With a mysterious smile, Syrup gives in and agrees to follow him anywhere. The adventure kicks off. A massive ducal carriage pulled by two thundering stallions tears down the road with incredible speed. Inside the carriage, Luke shuts his eyes, flooded with memories of Karen's lively rides. They already ache in her absence. Syrup, cloaked and concealing her ears and tail, expertly grips the reins, steering with impressive skill. Luke announces they've arrived. They step onto the bustling street, Luke marveling at their swift journey. No one dares challenge the ducal carriage's speed. His eyes blaze with resolve as he wonders what awaits them ahead. Their destination looms. The Great Matto Shop, a colossal emporium Luke knows from a game, famed for stocking everything from gear to gifts perfect for wooing. Crossing the threshold, a warm welcome envelops them. Luke turns to Syrup with a grin, telling her to pick whatever she desires. She beams back, gratitude shining in her eyes. Immediately, a sharply dressed man approaches. Morsky Matto, the shop's owner. He calls out Luke as Duke Disgustos' young son, and Luke silently acknowledges that knowledge is a merchant's deadliest weapon. Morsky escorts them beyond the main floor into a lavish VIP lounge, inviting them to take a seat in luxury. With a smirk, Morsky jokes that dealing with a dull old man must be a drag, then offers to introduce his daughter to spice things up, while a nearby attendant assures them they can request anything at all. Following the introduction, a lively young woman steps forward. Akari Mado, Morsky's 14-year-old daughter. Luke instantly recognizes her as a key love interest from the game's merchant arc. Akari warmly greets Luke and Syrup, expressing excitement to meet a beast man. They respond with polite introductions. She cuts to the chase, asking what Luke is after today. Inside, he's stunned by his luck. Meeting her before the academy even starts was beyond anything he hoped for. Luke asks her to simply show him her top picks, maybe a beauty routine or some handy gadget. Akari's eyes light up with enthusiasm, promising to reveal everything she recommends. Akari kicks off the tour with a massive grin, cracking jokes as she shows off a high-tech magic hairdryer. Luke finishes his shopping spree with a mountain of loot.
thanking Akari before turning to Syrup to ask what she wants for herself.
But deep down, she's dying for a gift, cherishing this rare moment they finally get to spend together. Right on time, Akari pulls out a small box containing a stunning red choker, leaving Syrup absolutely breathless at how beautiful it is. She tries to refuse, insisting a mere servant shouldn't have such a treasure, but Luke shuts her down with a calm look and says they're buying it. He holds out the box as a token of his gratitude for her hard work, gently asking if he was wrong to think she'd love it. Syrup hesitates for a second before flashing a sly smile, whispering that she guessed she has no choice but to accept. She spins around to fasten the choker, hiding her face as she nervously asks him for his honest opinion.
She turns back around with the red choker looking absolutely perfect, while Akari cheers that it fits her style flawlessly.
She looks Luke right in the eyes for his verdict, and with a blush on his face, he admits it makes her white hair look stunning. Syrup beams with a massive, joyful smile at his praise, and Luke can't help but grin back, feeling pure relief that she's actually happy. With the shopping spree finished, Akari waves him off at the carriage, thanking him for the incredible trip and begging him to come back soon. As the wheels start turning, he stares out the window, realizing that these little getaways are exactly what he needs to clear his head. But the future is looming. With the academy starting next year, he knows he has to see the real world before he's locked away in a classroom. Back in his room, a fire ignites in his eyes. He refuses to leave until he uncovers the dark truth of how he turned into such a disgusting, bloated mess. He collapses onto his bed in total frustration, dreading the massive headache ahead, but he knows he can't stay lazy forever. It's time to face the music. The mystery is haunting. On one side, his current hideous toad-like face, and on the other, the sharp, handsome noble he used to be. He stares into the mirror, haunted by the memory of his former self and wondering how on earth he fell this far from grace. Was it just laziness or something more sinister? He's ruled out allergies and bad health, but every lead just brings him to another dead end. Suddenly, a light bulb goes off. Karen might be the key. He starts obsessing over every single ingredient and how his meals are actually being made. Luke takes his theory to Karen, who trembles as she confirms his darkest fears. The ingredients he found are almost exclusively used to create deadly toxins. Luke realizes that while these substances can be medicine in tiny doses, they're a recipe for a slow, agonizing death when used as a weapon. His expression turns to stone as the realization hits him like a freight train. If he's been poisoned this whole time, it explains why his body mutated into such a grotesque mess. He hunts down Syrup to dig into his childhood, and she remembers him as a perfectly healthy, adorable toddler. Aside from having slightly sensitive skin, there wasn't a single thing wrong with him back then. She reveals that his health spiraled out of control for a year, until he suddenly collapsed during his 6th birthday party. Luke cuts in, remembering that day as the moment he supposedly passed out from pure mana exhaustion. He demands to know who was running the kitchen, and Syrup drops a bombshell. The chef was fired right after that dinner, and the head steward took over every single meal from then on. The final pieces of the puzzle snap together with a sickening click. Luke realizes with chilling certainty that the head steward has been serving him plates full of poison for years. Armed with the truth, Luke storms into the room to find the head steward bound to a chair and covered in bandages. The traitor flinches in pure terror the second Luke steps through the door. Luke begins the interrogation with a cold, piercing question. Why did he transform into a gross fat toad when it should have been impossible? Then, with a voice like ice, he thanks the man for preparing his food every single day. He casually kicks back on a giant, squishy slime like it's a throne, remarking that his childhood diet clearly didn't agree with him. He leans in close to the trembling man and whispers the horrific truth. He was being systematically poisoned. The steward breaks into a frantic sweat, his breath catching in his throat as his crimes are finally exposed. The steward shrieks in a total panic, confessing that the head of the Disgustos family gave him his orders, but Luke just stares him down, asking if his own father is the one pulling the strings. Luke realizes his family had no clue he could heal the poison, mocking the steward for failing to kill him as he only grew stronger while his enemies stayed too cowardly to do the dirty work themselves. With a cold glare, Luke drops the hammer, demanding to know if the steward was the one who poisoned his meal, leaving the man trembling and unable to utter a single word. The steward completely snaps, bowing his head and desperately begging for mercy, leaving Luke stunned by how fast this coward folded. Luke sighs in disappointment, finding this pathetic surrender totally boring, and admits he would have enjoyed his revenge way more if the guy actually put up a fight. But he offers forgiveness with a terrifying catch. As the steward trembles, Luke promises not to kill him, but instead turns him into a human lab rat for his magic, conjuring a glowing seal as he prepares a little punishment for his victim. He unleashes the spell, sentencing the steward to the gift of sloth, as a vortex of dark energy swallows the old man, binding his hands and shattering his consciousness. Luke watches with cold curiosity as the magic takes hold, leaving the steward with hollow, vacant eyes and a completely broken will. With the steward sitting like a mindless puppet, Luke dismisses him back to his chores, finally feeling a surge of absolute clarity about his next move. Now his focus shifts to the true mastermind behind this assassination plot, his own father, the treacherous Duke Disgustos. He knows his father won't blink if a few servants vanish, but a direct clash is suicide, so he chooses to cripple his enemies instead of killing them. He's playing this like a grandmaster, stripping his father's pawns of their power until the old man is left completely helpless on the board. Later, Syrup corners him in the hallway to grill him about his whereabouts, but he just plays it cool with a vague shrug. She won't let it go, demanding to know if he's actually attending the academy, so he flashes a smirk and asks if that news would make her happy. A flustered Syrup admits she never wants to leave his side, but Luke drops a bombshell. The academy is a literal death trap crawling with assassins, and he's just been savoring their final moments together. He gently pats her head, and a look of pure steel enters Syrup's eyes as she makes a silent vow. If her home is under threat, she'll personally crush anything that ruins her peaceful life. Luke's master plan is finally set. He'll pull the strings from the shadows, sparking a massive war between the royals and the nobles to ensure his father is utterly destroyed in the chaos. This is his ultimate path to survival, and even though he's stuck in the body of a hated villain, he's thrilled to be living inside the game he loves. His face hardens with pure, unshakable grit. He refuses to just sit there and die, so he's going to embrace the role of Luke Disgustos and play it for all it's worth. 1 year later, the big day finally arrives, and after a heartfelt goodbye to Syrup, Luke marches toward the massive gates of the Royal Academy to conquer his entrance exams. He scanned the crowd as the instructor barked out the rules. The entrance exam was a triple threat of magic, combat, and a written test. He stood among the candidates, knowing the top scorers got full scholarships regardless of rank. So he vowed to play it cool and stay invisible, until a girl nearby started mouthing off. His eyes locked onto the group heading for the combat trial, landing on a girl with sharp cat ears who flinched the moment she felt his stare. As she stepped onto the dueling grounds, a jolt of pure shock hit him. He knew exactly who she was. It was the adventurer Ruby, a beast girl with striking green hair and emerald eyes, one of the game's legendary heroines. The fight kicked off, and Ruby exploded forward like a rocket, slamming a devastating kick right into the massive instructor. Her speed was blinding, and when her foot connected with the instructor's guard, a thunderous boom sent shockwaves ripping through the arena. The instructor was stunned by her raw, beastly strength and wild fighting style, but as she finished, the next name was called Luke Hugelo Disgustos, who smirked as the real show began. But before he could move, a boy with two-toned hair stepped up to a testing slime that started glowing, only for him to sigh and call his elementless magic a total drag. That lazy complaint was instantly drowned out by a massive eruption of magical energy that completely pulverized the stone floor. The sheer explosive power was so terrifying that a nearby girl screamed for him to stop just as the next candidate's name was barked out. Watching from the shadows, Ruby smirked with a mysterious glint in her eyes, clearly captivated by the chaos he'd just unleashed. As the exams wrapped up, the instructor was left face down in the dirt while Luke searched for that feisty Beastman girl, only to see her humming happily as she vanished into the distance. The next morning, Ciro delivered the news. Luke had absolutely crushed the exams, and now he's officially strutting through the academy grounds in his sharp new uniform. Now that he's classmates with the game's legendary protagonist World, Luke stands tall, because the ultimate high-stakes romance simulation is finally kicking off. Looking like a total heartthrob in his new gear, Luke stares at his reflection, realizing he's undergone a stunning transformation. And even Syrup is left speechless as she announces his carriage is ready for day one. He's heading straight for Alicida's Royal Academy, the kingdom's most prestigious and ancient school where dangerous secrets and hidden agendas collide. It's the ultimate playground for the elite, but now even the most gifted commoners are being thrown into this den of high society nobles. This diversity is a desperate necessity, as the kingdom is under siege by monsters crawling out of dungeons, making lethal combat training a matter of life or death. But it's more than just a battlefield. The Academy is a cutting-edge magic laboratory where you might find yourself being taught by the most legendary mages to ever live. This world is built on two brutal mechanics: grinding your stats and winning over love interests, where every single choice shifts the story and forces you to trigger the right flags with surgical precision. With the rules locked in, he crafts a master plan to play the villainous Luke, staying close to the hero to pull the strings from the shadows and dodge every single death flag. He knows the game's script is already falling apart since he's no longer the disgusting toad he was meant to be, and he's determined to survive for the people who actually love him. Everything he does is for them. But as he prepares to leave, Syrup asks if he's truly ready. And though he gives her a thankful smile, he can see the heavy cloud of anxiety hanging over her. Her worry is plain to see as she complains about a ridiculous rule stopping her from being his academy attendant, and Luke realizes her sense of duty has only grown more intense over the years. Luke holds her hands and explains that because she's 7 years older than him, the Academy's strict age laws make it impossible for her to come along, no matter how much he wants her there. He admits that while most noble kids have a servant their own age for this exact reason, he's got absolutely no one in his life who fits that description. Her face is full of dread as she wonders if a random attendant picked by the Duke can actually handle Luke's unique pace, but he tries to calm her down, promising that everything will work out. He flashes a confident grin, reminding her that he can handle himself and that having Karen at the Academy should give her some peace of mind. But Syrup isn't backing down, and with a look of pure, painful determination, she declares that she's the only one who should ever be looking after him. Jay's gaze softens as he looks at their joined hands, remembering how Syrup has protected him since he was a little boy, and he offers her a quiet, soulful thanks. He looks back at a cold past where his family never showed him a shred of love, but Syrup filled that void so completely that he now sees her as his true wife. She is his only real family and most loyal servant, but as he realizes how much she'll struggle in his absence, he calls out her name with sudden, fierce resolve. He pulls her into a crushing embrace, burying his face in her hair as he swears that one day he'll find a way to reward her for everything she's done. She clings to him, her fingers digging into his uniform as he declares with absolute, unshakable conviction that he will fulfill his promise. They share one final heart-wrenching embrace, and as he whispers how much he'll miss her, she tearfully sobs that she'll miss him even more. He pulls back and tasks her with guarding the house, promising to return by the end of the year and asking her to wait for him, a request she accepts instantly. As his carriage rolls away from the estate, he realizes this distance will only make him treasure Syrup more, and he vows to count every single day until he's back in her arms. He remembers his bold vow: once he graduates, she's coming with him, and though Syrup thought she had no future, he firmly declared he would never let her go. Her shock transforms into pure determination as she promises never to leave his side, so long as Karen approves, bringing a joyful smile to his face. He took a massive leap of faith and asked her to be his real family, sending Syrup into a state of total shock before she exploded with pure joy. Seeing her beaming face, he couldn't help but think she was the cutest thing ever, finally admitting to himself that he truly loved her. Leaving his past and his home behind, he finally reaches the Academy where a mysterious hooded figure bows in welcome. He gives a confident wave as he strides through the massive gates, ready to ignite the next chapter of his life on the Academy's bustling main street. Near the reception area, a girl wearing glasses approaches him, and he feels a strange, sudden spark of familiarity. She greets him politely and asks if she has the honor of calling him Luxama. She quickly apologizes for the late introduction and reveals her identity: Libera Glico, the 15-year-old daughter of the legendary director of the Ministry of Magic. She recognized him instantly because her father had described him so perfectly. He's stunned to realize she's Malsan's daughter, and she explains that her father personally assigned her to be his loyal attendant and bodyguard. Since he's the only person bold enough to call her father Malsan, she insists he drop the formalities and just call her Libera. He studies his new guardian and asks if she's passionate about magic, remembering a tip from her father. Libera's face lights up with pure excitement as she declares her love for the craft, revealing her ultimate dream is to land a prestigious job at the ministry. When he asks why she seems hesitant, she admits that people usually mock girls who dream of joining the ministry. Without a second of doubt, he looks her dead in the eye and tells her with absolute confidence that she has exactly what it takes to win. He keeps the encouragement coming, telling her that her talent and insane work ethic will guarantee her success. Libera is visibly moved by his unwavering support. flashing a radiant, heart-melting smile as she offers him a deeply heartfelt thank you. That gratitude quickly shifts into a burning resolve as she vows to get even closer to him and handle his every need. He tries to play it cool, insisting he can take care of himself, but he's secretly baffled by why she's already so devoted to him. Suddenly, her expression turns intensely serious as she peers at him from behind her hand. She realizes the staggering truth. His magic isn't just a skill, it's a breathtaking work of art. Memories of the game flood back. Labura is a total magic fanatic whose obsession earned her the title of Witch, a hidden character you could only unlock with maxed-out stats. Realizing he's dealing with a wild card, he tries to pivot to dorm paperwork, but she brushes it off instantly. The forms are already done, and her intense energy is starting to feel overwhelming. She drags him to a cafe to talk shop, and as Luke inhales the rich aroma of his tea, he realizes this is the perfect atmosphere for a high-level magic breakdown. She begs to dive straight into his original spell, and after thanking her for the top-tier tea blend, he gives her the green light to start her analysis. She explodes into a frenzy over attributeless magic, her hands gesturing wildly as she speaks with pure reverence, making Luke wonder if she inherited this madness from Tommelson. Her eyes sparkle with pure academic fire as she concludes that his potential is absolutely limitless, even if there's still a massive mountain of improvement ahead. Luke realizes she'd be the ultimate research partner, her infectious hype mirroring her father's as she declares she can't wait to see his next breakthrough. Their voices ring out across the outdoor table, both of them completely lost in their shared, burning passion for the mystic arts. Time flies by until she realizes the main event is starting, and they bolt from their seats to make it to their destination. They finally reach the Magic Academy's Great Hall, a massive auditorium packed to the brim with students waiting for the grand entrance ceremony. Scanning the massive crowd from the balcony, his heart raced as he spotted familiar faces from the game. Every single major player was right there in the same room, but his focus shattered instantly when a chilling electric sensation of pure danger surged through his entire body. A wave of suffocating, murderous intent exploded from the crowd below, and it was all radiating from one man, the Sword Emperor. The warrior's eyes snapped upward, pinning Luke where he stood, as a sinister smirk crept across his face with a realization. So, that's him. Luke stared back, his stomach churning with dread as he realized he'd been marked, and a dark omen of the chaos to come settled deep in his gut. Even as the Sword Emperor's piercing glare tried to tear through him, Luke held his ground, baffled by how this stranger could look at him with such deep-seated, ancient hatred. Amidst the Grand Hall's chatter, Labura asks what's wrong, and Luke points out the boy glaring at him like a mortal foe, only to learn it's Dan, a prodigy from the rival Marshall family, born to be his ultimate enemy. Memories of the game's lore flood back, revealing Dan's insane growth potential and Lysian, the devoted childhood friend of the hero who's destined for a tragic, star-crossed romance. But a darker path exists where Luke captures Lysian for himself, turning her pure devotion into her greatest weakness, while Dan, the commoner son of a fallen knight, watches from the shadows. Driven by his father's legacy, Dan's burning hatred for Luke's family is palpable. But before the tension can boil over, the crowd falls silent as the valedictorian, Irina Shiley Bortlesidos, takes the stage. The kingdom's first princess, Irina, makes her grand entrance as the freshman rep, but Labura is already bored to tears. Even though Irina is a total knockout, Labura isn't impressed. She's grown up around her stunning sister Iris and didn't care for the princess in the game either. Luke makes it crystal clear that he's loyal to his fiancée, so he's keeping his guard up against any potential trouble. He suddenly pulls out a massive fluffy pillow and asks Labura if she minds if he takes a nap, and she happily agrees to catch up with him later. As the ceremony drones on, Luke falls into a deep sleep right there on his pillow, while Labura watches over him with a smile. Once the room is empty, she gently wakes him up and realizes with a shock that he's actually using the legendary rumored pillow. Luke beams as he confirms the rumors, explaining that his father found him floating on this very pillow when they first met. He calls Labura a beauty and offers to let her ride it sometime, but her mood crashes the moment she remembers the dreaded orientation is next. Just as they're about to leave, Luke suddenly grabs her hand, leaving Labura stammering in shock because she's never held a boy's hand before. Luke just smirks, telling her it's fine and declaring he'll take full responsibility for stealing her first time as he escorts her to class. As they walk off hand in hand, Lycian Marshall glares at them from the shadows, her face twisted in a jealous rage. She spits out a biting insult, causing Labura to whirl around and scream that they aren't doing anything while Luke tries to calm the chaos. Labura worries if Luke is still stinging from the confrontation, but he brushes it off like it's nothing. He tells her he'd much rather spend his energy talking to her, which leaves her absolutely glowing with happiness. They decide to get orientation over with as fast as possible and step into the massive lecture hall for Class 0. Labura looks around the packed room, noting that they're free to grab any seat they like. A man with long, dark hair named Glorn Research introduces himself, and Luke recognizes him instantly from the game. But then the assistant teacher, Silas, appears, an ancient elf who was the most notoriously difficult love interest to ever pursue. A scholarship student named Muriel stands up and declares that noble status is worthless here. Only raw talent counts. Lycian Marshall immediately challenges this, demanding to know exactly how they'll prove their power, and the teacher praises her for the sharp question. Glorin reveals his latest masterpiece, the Magic Watch, and as Luke pumps his mana into the device, it erupts in a blinding flash of light. This tech tracks their unique mana signatures to rank them, but Luke is stunned to see the exact same stat screen from the game appearing right before his eyes. He realizes his private stats are hidden, but the faculty can see the rankings, showing that Arena and Ruby dominated the top spots last year. Labura takes the lead in Magic, while Mural crushes the academics, leaving Luke in second place as Glorin brags that magic tools are the future of mankind. Luke tries to talk to Labura, but she's busy calling the teacher a total mana maniac. Just as Silas steps up to announce that playtime is officially over, she warns the students that their survival is their own problem, and failing grades will get them ruthlessly demoted. Unless they hit the one exception. That exception is the Sword Emperor Cup, a massive global tournament where a legendary performance can keep even the worst students in the elite classes. Victory earns you the title of Honorary Knight and a seat among the nobility, all fueled by the Academy's brutal practice duels known as ranking battles. The rules are savage. You can challenge anyone above you to steal their rank, but lose too many times and you'll be barred from challenging them ever again. Luke realizes the game's plot is forcing a collision between him and the hero Dan, where he's destined to be the first villain to fall in battle. With ironclad resolve, Dan shoots his hand up and demands to know when the ranking battles kick off. Silas explains they just need to register on their watches, and Dan doesn't waste a single second. He leaps up, points a finger straight at his target, and roars his challenge. Luke Hugelo Disgustos, get over here and fight me! The challenge flashes onto Luke's watch, locking them into a duel. Our protagonist watches from the sidelines, realizing this is the exact moment the tutorial battle begins. Luke stares down his opponent, ready to play his part as the villainous noble in this scripted destiny. This showdown is a carbon copy of the game's legendary tutorial fight. In the original timeline, Luke was a magical prodigy who got absolutely crushed by Dan, a lowly knight apprentice. That humiliating defeat sparked a hellish obsession for revenge, turning Luke into Dan's most persistent nightmare. While the original Luke rotted in the shadows, consumed by his own bitter grudge, Dan lived the dream, soaking up all the glory and making friends left and right. That was the old script, a prideful noble losing his mind because a commoner dared to challenge him. But this Luke is built different. With a bored wave of his hand, he shuts it down instantly, declaring he's not playing along. Dan is stunned by the rejection, but Luke just sits there looking completely drained of energy. Luke calmly points out he's ranked second and asks Dan where he stands, but Dan mistakes this logic for cowardice and starts screaming that Luke is just a pathetic chicken. Luke brushes off the insult, refusing to waste his breath on an idiot who can't even do the math. He explains that Dan has everything to gain while he has absolutely nothing to win, but Dan just bellows back that he's ranked 20. Meanwhile, Lycian Marshall is absolutely fuming nearby, unable to watch this disrespect any longer. She stomps right up to Luke's face, demanding to know why he's backing down. She screams that as a noble of their great nation, he should be honored to accept a challenge instead of running away. But her fiery lecture suddenly sputters out as she thinks twice. She mutters that even though he's a massive headache, his grades are actually top tier. Looking totally flustered, she suddenly retreats, deciding it's better to just stay out of this mess. She turns on her heel and bails, dismissing the whole drama as a giant waste of time. As she leaves, Luke smiles to himself, sticking to his golden rule. Direct action is way too much work, and he'd much rather pull the strings from the shadows. Suddenly, Irina Alicida cuts in, her eyes burning with excitement for a showdown. She's hyped for the ultimate clash, Dan's raw physical power versus Disgustus's elite magic. She stares Luke down, warning him that his rank will tank if he chickens out. She demands he act like a true noble, follow the rules, and lead the way.
Luke is losing his mind over the princess's stubbornness. She blocks his path, declaring that this duel is his duty and she's not letting him escape.
She keeps the pressure on, reminding everyone that in this school, your title is worthless. Only your grades and strength define you. Her logic pins him against the wall, and he sighs in pure frustration, realizing he can't dodge both a princess and a duke's daughter. He's secretly fuming at Princess Irina while Libera watches him with deep concern. With a heavy heart and zero motivation, he finally caves, muttering, "You're right, princess," as he gives up the fight. Dan catches his words from afar, standing with Lycian Marshall and thinking that Luke looks far too weak to stop the wheels of fate from turning. Luke drags himself toward the towering Colosseum with Val the slime floating by his side. He's complaining the whole way, whining about what a massive pain it is to actually have to move his body. As he walks with Libera and Dan, Luke's brain is working overtime. He needs to lose this fight on purpose, but he has no idea how to pull it off. Val senses his stress and floats over to check on him. Libera turns to him, knowing he hates exercise, and drops some intel on his rival. She explains that Dan is a knight apprentice from the Marshal Duchel house, a family of legendary warriors who are born and bred for combat. A confident smirk spreads across his face as he hears the news. He turns to Val and promises the little slime that this fight is going to be a total walk in the park. Libera is stunned by his sudden shift in energy. Her eyes sparkle behind her glasses, completely captivated by this surge of raw, unexpected confidence. She calls Luke a total enigma, a genius who creates impossible magic, but refuses to fight despite his noble blood. Luke just shrugs it off, casually asking if she really thinks he's that strange. She panics and insists it's a compliment. When Luke asks what magic and fighting have to do with each other, she explains that for nobles, their pride and power are everything. He just smiles and says that's fine by him, adding that he'd hate for her to actually dislike him. That one smooth comment sends her brain into a total meltdown. Her cool exterior completely shatters as she screams at the top of her lungs that she could never, ever hate him. Meanwhile, their rivals, Dan and Lycian Marshall, march forward with ice-cold determination and their eyes locked dead ahead. They arrive at the massive, towering Colosseum, and Luke realizes he hasn't stepped foot in this arena since the day of the entrance exams. A proctor steps onto the sand as the entire class fills the stands to watch this epic ranking match. While Luke stays calm and collected, Dan starts stretching, ready to unleash hell. Dan glares at Luke, swearing he's going to beat that rotten personality right out of him. He trashes Luke for being lazy during the exams, but Luke just ignores the threats and tells his worried ally to just sit back and watch. Dan's fuming rage is met with nothing but a cold, dismissive sigh from Luke. Luke tells him to stop whining and be thankful he's even bothering to show up for this fight. The taunt hits home, and a desperate Dan demands to know Luke's level. Luke just shrugs, claiming he maxed out his stats the moment he saw the game, and that real victory comes from pure strategy and the basics. Luke stares down his confused rival with total composure, but when he reveals he's actually only level 1, Dan's jaw hits the floor in pure shock. Shock turns to pure fury as Dan clenches his fists, screaming that Luke is a pathetic joke. He can't believe a noble has never even faced a single monster in battle. The proctor's voice booms through the arena, cutting through the tension. He calls out the challenger Dan and the high-ranking defender, Luke Hugelo Disgustos, ordering them to center stage. Dan white-knuckles his sword, his eyes burning with a killer instinct. Meanwhile, Luke looks like he's on a Sunday stroll, casually wishing his opponent a good luck. Dan's face turns beet red with intense focus as he waits for the signal to blow this ranking match wide open. The proctor roars, "Begin!" and Dan lunges forward like a predator. But Luke just calmly summons his slime, Val, realizing that without game menus to guide him, he's only got one desperate move left. As Dan's blade swings down for the kill, Luke gives Val a single order. "Take total control for 60 seconds. He just hopes the slime keeps them alive long enough for him to wake up and surrender. In a flash, the slime transforms into a shimmering blade, parrying the strike with a deafening clang. Dan freezes in horror as Luke's eyes begin to glow with an eerie light, whispering, "I'm counting on you!" His enemy stood there frozen in shock, desperately clutching his blade for dear life as the possessed Luke towered over him with a chilling, arrogant smirk. Suddenly, Luke snaps back to reality with a pained groan, staring in horror at his slime-covered hand while Dan's body literally vanishes into thin air. This insane duel kicked off with a move nobody saw coming. The possessed Luke reached out and pressed his palm right against Dan's forehead, leaving Dan screaming for him to let go. The entity inside Luke grits its teeth and tightens its fist with cold resolve while the battlefield around them echoes with the chaotic symphony of clashing steel. Dan is drenched in sweat, his mind spinning as he realizes his opponent is barely scratched. Yet he's still banking on Luke's secret magic to secure a victory in this rigged match. But Luke has a different plan entirely, lunging forward with a cold, sharp declaration. "Let's finish this right now." He blurs with godlike speed, slamming his hand back onto Dan's head and whispering a single command, "Sleep!" leaving Dan's desperate power-up completely useless. Luke's mind is sharp as a razor, instantly identifying Dan's boost magic as a broken cheat code that the rookie is simply too weak to control. He realizes Dan's magic defense is pathetic, making him a sitting duck for the sleep spell, but he worries that winning this fight might actually ruin his role as the villain. He fights desperately against the creeping darkness as his body goes limp, realizing he has to find a way to trick the crowd and save this total disaster. The crowd watches in terror as Lishan screams, and the proctor stands frozen while a massive white blob erupts from Luke, swallowing Dan and hoisting him into the air. Breaking the deathly silence, the proctor screams that Luke is the victor, begging him to release Dan from that disgusting slime prison. The announcement echoes as Dan's limp body slams onto the cold stone, leaving Lishan frozen in terror as she shrieks his name. Shock turns to pure rage as she kneels by her friend, branding Luke a piece of scum and demanding to know how he could keep attacking a man who was already knocked out. Luke doesn't even flinch, staring her down with ice-cold eyes and reminding her that Dan started this fight, so he should have been ready for the consequences. He looks away from the carnage and scans the stunned crowd, boldly announcing that he's ready to take on anyone else who wants a ranking match. Lishan is speechless at his arrogance as Luke mockingly wipes his brow, taunting the crowd that since he's tired, now is the perfect time to try their luck. He searches for a challenger, but the arena is dead silent. With a wicked smirk, he decides to use this moment to teach these cowards a lesson they'll never forget. While Libera Glico watches with a piercing gaze, Luke begins his lecture, claiming he only respects those with the brains to truly master the mystic arts. He spits out his hatred for idiots who rely on nothing but raw power, pointing a mocking finger at Dan's broken body and warning any other barbarians not to test him. He's going to make absolutely sure they never dare to challenge him again, his fist clenching in a silent, violent promise. In the stands, Irina and the other students watch in total shock, their faces a wild mix of terror and pure fascination. Luke stands tall over his broken opponents, Dan and Lysian, knowing his reputation as a villain is about to explode across the school. He'd rather be left alone, but he accepts that in this cruel world might makes right. His thoughts are shattered when Lysian Marshall erupts in fury, swearing a blood oath to crush Dan. As she storms off in a rage, Luke turns to Libera, wondering if he should have just kept his mouth shut. Dan plummets toward the cold stone floor, but Val the Slime lunges forward to cushion the impact. Luke winces, cursing his own laziness for not stepping in to save him sooner. He mocks the fallen Dan, calling his magic a waste of time if he's so easily distracted. Luke shuts him down completely, dismissing him as a fool, blinded by his own ego before ending the conversation right then and there. Libra nods in agreement and asks if he's ready to get out of there, but Luke stays silent, his face twisting into a mask of somber disgust. The silence is broken when Princess Irina herself approaches, demanding to know if he's really the classmate named Luke. He stares her down, confirming his identity and asking her exactly what she wants. She remarks that he's the only person who looks at her with such cold eyes, secretly thinking a commoner like him could never understand her. Then it hits her.
She remembers her brother Testa mentioning him, realizing they're actually in the same grade. Her icy expression softens just a bit as she acknowledges his family name, thanking him for the incredible display of power in the arena. She turns and vanishes, leaving Libera totally confused by the encounter. Luke looks at the ground, a single tear falling as he whispers that he can never be forgiven. Burra flashes a radiant smile, brushing off his concerns and laughing about how their first day of school was an absolute marathon. Later that night, he finds Karen staring out from the balcony and asks what she's doing up so late, gently suggesting she finally get some rest. She spins around with a glowing smile, having devoured every scrap of food on the table. She's overjoyed to finally taste his cooking again, telling him she's completely stuffed and so happy he's doing well. As his heart swells, she teases that her cooking is the ultimate fuel, but playfully warns him not to hype her up too much or she'll never stop. He chuckles, telling her she deserves the praise after all her business wins. But when she tries to give him the credit, he insists he only gave her a few pointers. Her eyes go wide as she declares his support is the literal backbone of House Caribbean's success, calling him out for being way too modest. He shrugs it off, explaining that if the house gets rich, he gets rich too. She bursts out laughing, teasing that only a true nobleman could be that blunt. Suddenly, the mood shifts. She grabs his hand, looking him dead in the eye to ask if he's serious, and his firm nod brings back years of shared memories. She leans in, her voice thick with emotion, as she recounts his lonely past and his obsession with her cooking. She knows he loves her despite everything. But then she whispers the ultimate question. Luke, am I still just your cook? Without a second thought, he drops to one knee. He declares that even if their noble houses crumble to dust, she is his entire world, and he can't survive a single day without her. He reaches out, begging her to stay the night, and she beams with a playful grin, calling him a total devil because no woman could ever say no to a plea like that. At the crack of dawn, he's soaring over the rooftops with Karen in his arms, swearing that he'd hide from the world if anyone but Syrup caught them in such a compromising spot. He touches down on a stone ledge right in front of Dan, who's out for a jog and nearly jumps out of his skin seeing a member of the Disgustos family lurking at this ungodly hour. Suspicion flares in Dan's mind as he hunts for a dark plot. But then his jaw drops as Luke is suddenly swallowed by the glowing, mystical energy of the trace technique. The aura projects a vision of Luke shredding through enemies with such insane grace that Dan is paralyzed, realizing this isn't just a brawl, it's a lethal, beautiful dance. But Luke remembers the struggle differently. He thought his low-level foes would be easy pickings until their freakishly high stats forced him to fight for his life to bridge the power gap. Reality hits Dan like a freight train, and he grinds his teeth in fury, realizing the spoiled noble he looked down on has actually been training 10 times harder than him. He spent his whole life obsessed with combat to become a legendary knight, but now he's haunted by the crushing realization that his current path will never lead him to Luke's level. Staring up at the endless, empty sky, he's hit with a humbling truth. The world is way bigger and more complex than he ever dreamed. As the sun rises over the quiet walls, he makes a silent vow to stop following the crowd and finally forge his own path forward. Fueled by a brand new fire, he sprints forward, finally realizing his biggest flaw. He's been a total meathead. He knows his physical power is top tier, but without the Academy's structure, his brain has gone soft, and he's dead set on changing that right now. He bellows at the top of his lungs that he's going to take Luke down, no matter what. Luke can only watch in silence, hiding a smirk. He doesn't see a world where the kid actually wins, but man, you've got to respect that insane fighting spirit. Grinning through his bloody bandages, the apprentice shrugs off his loss as nothing but a minor speed bump. He swears a blood oath that one day he'll reach a level far beyond Luke's wildest dreams. He bolts away, admitting deep down that Luke is currently in a whole different league. As he disappears into the distance, a mysterious, warm, healing glow begins to radiate from Luke's chest. Cut to the Academy's massive dining hall, where Luke and Libera are ready to feast. They find Iris already there, calmly sipping on honey tea and welcoming them with a bright smile. She gives Luke a playful scolding, insisting he eats a real meal for once. Between sips, she wonders how he stays so incredibly chill when his blood pressure is supposedly through the floor. Iris keeps talking, revealing that the Academy has completely transformed her older sister. She's become so elegant and well-spoken among the high-ranking nobles that people are starting to treat her like a literal saint. She was the absolute star of the freshman welcome party,
an event Luke remembers all too well. He had to give a speech as the class rep, but he stopped caring the moment nasty rumors started flying about his ties to the royalist faction. Libura jumps in with a shocker, apologizing to Iris while revealing that her sister is actually a heavy drinker. Luke's jaw drops, but Libura is already hyped up, suggesting they invent a new supplement to fix those blood pressure issues. Just then, a cold, stern student marches past them, serving as a chilling reminder to Luke. His very first fight at this academy has already exploded into a massive school-wide scandal. This single event drew a massive line in the sand for the entire student body. Luke's royalist faction is now drowning in pure jealousy and hate, while the high-ranking aristocrats are looking at them with total awe. Everyone else is just holding their breath, watching these explosive power dynamics unfold. Luke finally slumps into his chair, letting out a massive sigh of relief as the adrenaline from the fight fades away. He's finally got some peace and quiet, meaning he can finally dive into his books without some idiot picking a fight. It's time to tackle the Academy's brutal curriculum, which splits everything into boring core basics and high-octane magic electives. Step 1 on his list? Dominating the course registration. A wicked smirk creeps across his face as he realizes he's not trapped by some rigid RPG stat system anymore. He's got total freedom to mix and match any subject he wants to create the ultimate build. He instantly ditches the physical training classes because, let's be real, he's already a beast, so he's going all in on magic. He knows that mastering the arcane is the only true path to a life of pure, lazy luxury. Suddenly, Libera pipes up, revealing she's locked in her choices for magic and tool studies before filling the rest with the basics. With the school day finally over, she's ready to get the heck out of there. While they climb the massive grand staircase, she excitedly suggests heading to a private training room. It's the perfect secret spot to grind out magic practice or just study in total peace. She breaks down the school's hierarchy, explaining that the best arenas and halls are locked behind your rank. But since they're in Class 0, they have VIP access to every single facility on campus. As they march down a long corridor, she explains that rankings are public just to keep the students at each other's throats. With a look of pure determination, she gestures toward a massive set of doors and announces, "This is it!" The doors swing wide to reveal a colossal, echoing hall that's completely empty. Libera apologizes for the lack of decor, but right in the middle of the massive space, Karen C. Caribbean is already there, kneeling on the cold floor. Out of nowhere, an explosive surge of power bursts from her, obliterating the stone floor beneath her knees. Cracks spiderweb across the room as the ground buckles under the sheer weight of her aura. The training hall is a total disaster zone, with dust hanging thick in the air and the walls scarred by the raw intensity of her power. Standing amidst the wreckage, Libera claps her hands and proudly declares that she's successfully restored the expanded space. When asked if this was her first time using that magic, Libera admits it is, explaining that since it's not in any book, it's a rare feat for a self-taught mage. Luke flashes a confident grin and offers to show her the ropes, and she jumps at the chance. She points to a glowing magic circle on the floor, explaining that while it looks common, these diagrams are vital for stabilizing mana. One wrong line and the whole spell fizzles out. Holding Val the slime, Luke realizes that magic demands serious effort. While non-elemental spells require a wild imagination, elemental magic takes years of grueling training to truly master. Her eyes sparkle at his insight, realizing they both share a deep passion for the mysteries of magic, and Luke couldn't agree more. With the theory lesson over, they pull up a seat as Libera suggests they get down to business and swap their personal stats. Luke checks her sheet. Libra Glico, level 4, a water attribute mage skilled in life enhancement and support. He notes that water fits her perfectly, and she beams, loving how its versatility lets her play both offense and defense. Luke slides his own paper across the desk to reveal his secrets, and as Libera leans in with bated breath, he tells her to get ready for something truly spectacular. She snatches the document, but her jaw hits the floor as she reads the shocking truth. "Is this even allowed?" she stammers, but Luke stays ice cold, ordering her to keep this elemental magic a total secret and tell everyone he only uses body manipulation spells. Her mind is reeling, but Luke leans in with a devious smirk, demanding her silence. He reassures her it's perfectly fine, since Malson already knows the truth and hasn't breathed a single word.
She agrees instantly, swearing a blood oath to never tell a soul. Even Val the Slime joins in, chirping with pure hype as it promises to keep the secret safe. Suddenly, the duel flashes back into her mind as the pieces finally click. Luke used a terrifying sleep spell to instantly shut Dan down. This is the very first time she's ever seen hypnosis magic used with such lethal efficiency. Meanwhile, Luke is lost in his own world, his heart pounding as he imagines the insane ways he'll use his unique abilities. He mutters to himself that he's absolutely ready for the chaos ahead. She pivots to a new mystery, desperate to know more about his non-elemental magic and his slime, Val. Since this original magic isn't in any official database, it's impossible for anyone to analyze or track. Luke wonders if the appraisal skill is just pulling data from the Ministry of Magic's archives. She confirms his hunch, explaining that scanning elemental magic requires a device with a high-level analysis engine that most people can't even dream of. With a dramatic flourish, she reveals a sleek magic watch, a rare masterpiece that crams high-level tech into a tiny frame. Luke's eyes light up with pure greed, realizing this legendary tool is going to make dungeon crawling and intel gathering a total breeze.